Today I'm going to be playing a Patreon deck from Mithraphone, and it appears to pretty much be a Beast Hunter. So we have a lot of Beast synergies. We have Warsong Wrangler and Selective Breeder to pull them from the deck. We have Dire Frenzy and Sunscale Raptor to shuffle more beasts into the deck. We've got Don't Feed the Animals and Shando Wildclaw to buff our beasts. And finally, we've got Tavish Stormpike to summon a bunch of beasts from the deck, potentially. And then, other than those synergy cards, obviously the rest of our deck is beasts, because we do need some beasts for our beast synergy cards. I'm most afraid of Token Druid, but I haven't seen that deck at all at this rank, so I'll probably just assume it's a ramp deck. Not sure how much that affects my mulligan, though. I want to hit Sunscale Raptor for turn 1. Turn 2 plays. I don't know, maybe I just keep a Bear Shark for turn 3. Probably kind of bad to keep a 3-drop with such a low curve, though. I'll just toss everything. Hecklefang Hyena is pretty solid. Alright, so I have Dire Frenzy to buff something, and then Warsong Wrangler to find whatever I shuffle. If I Dire Frenzy the Cobra, it's a 4/8. That's pretty good. I think I probably will just play the Cobra next turn to try to always have a Dire Frenzy target. Alright, I can play a Tracking as well. Tame Beast is a good card. Shouldn't really need the Hatchet to kill small minions against Druid, but it does 6 damage. Web Spinner, I think, is the worst of these. I think I just want the damage. Scary minion. Do I ever try to Dire Frenzy the Sunscale Raptor? Doesn't really seem necessary. I was planning to Warsong Wrangler this turn, but it's not like I would be able to play the Cobra if I hit it. So I think I'll probably just go for some other stuff so I can use the weapon to kill this. I'll play a 3/3 over a 1/3, sure, why not? Not sure if I'm going to play this copy of Don't Feed the Animals. I guess it depends on what I hit off the Warsong Wrangler. But if I hit Cobra, I think I'd rather just go ahead and play the Cobra. Talon Fordring. Well, Wolpertinger is really good to buff with Don't Feed the Animals. That's a Cobra, but it's a small one. Still buffs the Cobra I have in play, though. Makes it a 6/9. That's pretty nice. Could just play 2 Raptors this turn. They would be, what, 3/4s? I kinda like just playing 2 3/4s this turn. Pretty good chance I have lethal next turn. Seven mana 6/6. That's pretty pathetic. Oh, Dire Frenzy. Well, let's go ahead and make this big enough to one-shot. And then I have 12. I guess we just play Wolpertinger. I don't see any reason to kill the broom. It might have been worth hero powering here instead of playing Wolpertinger. But if my opponent full clears my board with like Guardian Animals, double Lake Thresher or something, then I just have hero power plus quick shot. Seems really unlikely that they could clear and heal, and it looks like they can't do either. I mean, they can still spend 5 mana with Blooms and Innervate.
I can't win them all.
And they're dead.
Sylvanas versus Malfurion.
Victory for the Forsaken.
Raptor into Ingenuity is a nice 1-2 curve. Three 7 Cobra is nice. Sure. I guess I play my 3-7. The rest of my plays here are pretty terrible. But Warsong Wrangler into Don't Feed the Animals should be strong.
Hungry, aren't ya?
Take another Cobra. It's the best minion there, and it gives me a little bit of immediate value. I actually didn't even notice that my opponent overdrew a Gibberling last turn. That's very good for me. Yep, that is very token Druid of you. Another Warsong Wrangler. Let's just clean up the board a bit. The opponent's going into their Arbor Up turn, so let's make sure that they have no minions. Oh, they whiffed on their draw. What an idiot.
Hungry, aren't ya?
Let's do some more wrangling. I guess I'll take Zexor. Not really too excited about any of these. So weapon plus Zixor to kill the taunts. Okay, never mind. This better not be Innervate Arbor Up. Okay. So 3, 3, I have 7, 11. I can believe I have lethal here. Alright, so I played a bit with this deck, and I was struggling to win, I gotta say. But I did find out that the deck that was sent to me is one of the default deck recipes. So it makes sense that I wasn't winning that much. So I replaced the web spinners with Wolpertingers because it's just a better 1-drop and it's a much better target to buff with Don't Feed the Animals or Shando Wildclaw. I cut the selective breeders and the headhunters hatchets so we can just play more beasts in the deck. More beasts means more value out of Shando, more value out of Don't Feed the Animals. I feel like the Don't Feed the Animals was pretty sketchy in the original version of this deck because it just had so many spells, so many non-beasts that you couldn't buff. So for the beasts that I added, I focused a bit on rush minions. I added Mok'Nathal Lions and Trampling Rhinos. Trampling Rhino in particular is just a really good card, especially when we're playing Warsong Wrangler. We can buff it up with Dire Frenzy. It's just a really good card to give buffs to. And it's good with Tavish Stormpike as well. After a friendly beast attacks, you summon a beast from your deck. So with this build of the deck, we can attack with... Well, we can actually start our chain with a fully upgraded Tame Beast, which costs 6 mana, which pulls Trampling Rhino, which pulls Lion, which pulls one of the 3-drops. If it's Zixor, then we can also just pull a 2-drop off that, so it makes Tavish quite a bit better. And speaking of our 3-mana beasts, I added a couple augmented porcupines to support the Mok'Nathal Lions, and with all the buff stuff in the deck, the porcupine is just pretty good. And then finally I added a couple copies of Serpent Bloom. I did have some issues dealing with big minions, and now that we've got Wolpertingers, we've got a couple little minions that are pretty easy to slap it on, and the Serpent Bloom actually works with Augmented Porcupine's Deathrattle, which I didn't think it would, but I tested it and it did work. So yeah, basically we've got more beasts, we've got more rush, and just generally I think we have higher quality cards now.
Sylvanas versus Thrall.
Victory for the Forsaken.
Scavenger's Ingenuity is nice, we'll toss the other two. Unfortunate to not have a 1-drop, but that's okay. Shando's really nice next turn. And then turn 4 will probably be Scavenger's Ingenuity plus Cobra.
Students, today's class will be outside.
Wait a second, my deck tracker's not even using the right version of the deck. There we go. So I could play the Mok'Nathal Lion here. Wow, it's pretty big actually.
The calm before the storm.
See what we can hit here. 1 mana for 2 4/4s. So I drew Don't Feed the Animals and then I dumped all the beasts out of my hand. But I think that's okay. Well, that dies to my Cobra.
The moment is upon us.
Well, let's just play a Rhino here. If the Rhino sticks, I have Tavish. So I did buff my deck. That means the Mok'Nathal Lion is 6 power. So I can attack like this.
Hungry, aren't ya?
Let's just take the Porcupine since I have one in play. Zixor's probably quite a bit better. I have 2 Serpent Blooms, so I'll just throw that one out, I guess. Probably doesn't really matter. That was pretty strong. Well, let's go ahead and play that. This puts my opponent to 4, so probably makes sense to just hero power. Well, Tavish was insane this game. Oh, I don't think I can ever die here. Unless there are lightning blooms. Demon Hunter.
Victory for the Forsaken.
Wolpertinger on 1. I think with Don't Feed the Animals, I hold the Wolpertinger. Probably don't need Serpent Bloom in this matchup. I guess I just take Trampling Rhino. I think the best card to hit there probably would have been Shando. Just a good card, and it corrupts my Don't Feed the Animals. But Rhino's pretty good.
Better be something good.
Don't really love dealing damage to myself, but 3 mana 4/6 is hard to pass up.
We'll cut right to the chase.
I would like to buff the Porcupine with Scavenger, or with Don't Feed the Animals, but I currently don't have a better way to corrupt Don't Feed the Animals, so... Next turn can be Ingenuity, Don't Feed the Animals, plus Wolpertinger. That's pretty good. If I'm under a lot of pressure, I can play Cobra instead of Scavenger's Ingenuity, but I do lose a bit of value.
Demons? Demons.
I didn't need it anyway. Better be something good.
Oh, Mok'Nathal Lion for my Porcupine. That's really, really tempting. I think I'm gonna stick to the plan. I think there's a decent chance that my Porcupine survives the turn anyway. Seems like my porcupine probably dies here. No, they let it live. Let's see if they regret that. Am I fine leaving this at 1 health? I mean, there's no way they hero power into it and take 14 damage. I think this is fine. Oh, they do have that card now. Alright, a bit of a mistake from me. They don't have any ramp, so Illidari Inquisitor can't come down next turn. I think I'm feeling pretty okay about the current state of this game. That's a bit scary. 2 rush minions. Illidari Inquisitor just kills me next turn. But I do have a Rhino. Actually, if they trade off that Performer, then my Rhino just does 8 damage from hand, so I might be fine here, actually. Yep, Trampling Rhino. Oh, this Rhino only does 6, actually. Should be fine, though, right? Wow, that was exact lethal, huh? Trampling Rhino is a hell of a card.
Sylvanas versus Rexa.
Victory for the Forsaken.
Try to find some early game. I do like Tavish with Tame Beast. Although I did draw my Zixor, which is the best hit off Tame Beast Tavish. Still good to get a free Porcupine, though. Speaking of Porcupine, I'm definitely going to be playing that on turn 3. Cute. Pretty sure I want to buff my deck. Makes my Tavish a little bit better, even. Definitely a Tavish turn, I think. Unfortunately, none of these pull anything, but getting a free Porcupine is solid.
Want to know why they call me Kudo?
That's pretty strong, but I'm also in a pretty dominating position here, so I think I can just kind of go face and not worry about it too much. My Tavish survives. Oh, Dire Frenzy. Well, how much damage do I have? 5, 10, 12, 15. I mean, I probably just do this.
You mess with the wrong one.
I don't really see how my opponent survives this. Even if they have something that completely wipes my board, my porcupine kills their board.
These are Kokar lands.
They're looking for another Serpent Bloom. Wow. Didn't even kill it. Yeah, clear their board, porcupine.
Well fought. I concede.
Alright, so I played a bit more with this deck, and honestly, it's still looking a little bit sketchy, but my win rate did improve. I think the change I want to make at this point is cutting Don't Feed the Animals. I think it's really hard to play enough beasts to consistently hit with this, and it's so slow because you have to corrupt it and then find a turn to play it. It just comes down a little bit too late, I think. So in place of Don't Feed the Animals, there are a couple different options that we have. One thing I considered playing was Death's Head Cultist. I do feel like we get kind of murdered sometimes, and it has a bit of synergy with Moknathal Lion. But to be honest, with just the 2 porcupines and the Zixor, I didn't actually have much trouble using my lions. So I don't know if we necessarily need this card. Or just generally, I don't know if we need another Deathrattle. So without the Death's Head Cultist, I think the card I want to play is probably just Imprisoned Felmaw. Has 0 synergies with our deck, but turns out the card is just overpowered. Other than that, I didn't really care for the Hecklefang Hyena. We have a problem with getting murdered, and dealing 3 damage to ourselves isn't really good when we have this, like, long-term Dire Frenzy game plan. So not really a big fan of the Hyena. I would kind of like to replace it with another beast. So I guess if we're replacing it with another beast, the go-to for that is probably just going to be Oasis Thrasher. -1 health to not worry about having to kill ourselves with it. Seems pretty reasonable. So at this point, I think I am reasonably happy with the list. If I was going to cut anything else, it probably would be Serpent Bloom. I think it's a pretty cute card in the deck. But maybe it's better to just have something that's a bit more consistent. So something that we could look at playing instead of this is Barak. And with Barak, of course, we're also going to play Mankrik. I do feel like the more I iterate on this deck, the more aggressive it becomes. Which, maybe isn't the direction that was hoped for. But I feel like if you want to win games, you kind of have to lean into it. And we still get to do some pretty fun stuff with Tavish. Sometimes with Dire Frenzy. The porcupine stuff is pretty cool. So I think it seems reasonable. Something else I considered doing with this deck is playing Moonfang. I feel like you can make this deck like a really big late game threat if you play Moonfang. And you can use Tavish plus fully upgraded Tame Beast to tutor Moonfang. You probably have to cut the Trampling Rhinos for that. But you can always pull Moonfang. And after you get your Moonfang in play, you can play Dire Frenzy on it. And then you have, what, 4, 9, 6 Moonfangs for the game. And depending on the sequence, you can maybe tutor out a buffed one with Tavish. I feel like that's pretty good. I just think the current meta doesn't really support that. My opponents were doing a lot of trying to murder me. But if you're like exclusively playing against Priest, that's probably a pretty solid win condition.